So hello everyone, welcome to the third Sasensei International Dojo SID event. We have Abhishek from Australia, Brisbane, who is going to talk to us about some nifty hacks in SAS. Over to you.
Thanks, Ella. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to everyone. I'm not too sure for whom it is good morning or for whom it is good afternoon, and I'm saying good day. That's way better, I guess. And I hope everyone is doing great, even though in this critical COVID-19 situations as well. And thanks for joining me to attend this SAS presentation, SID 3. And in this meeting, I'll be discussing on nifty hacks in SAS. I can't say it is too much nifty, but I can say it is kind of hack in SAS. So we can save some time and we can feel happy about the things that we do normal days. It is some kind of nifty for the early developers. I can't say for everyone though. Yep. Let me brief myself. And this is Abhishek, and I have been working in Collection House Group for more than a year now. It's in Brisbane, Australia. And previously I used to work for two different clients or projects. And first one was Post and Notes. I used to work for Norway Post and Notes. And after that, I used to work for Schlumberger, which is a US company. It's an oil field company where I was working as SAS administrator cum SAS developer in my both previous roles and even in my current role as well. Cool, that's all about me. And what are we gonna learn from this presentation? I'll be discussing 3 small SAS concepts and 1 suggestion I can say, and let's get into the topics. First one is listing duplicates in a data set using PROC SQL in a single step. And second one would be calling a macro within a data step and using the values generated by that macro within the same data step as well. And third one is a kind of suggestion from my side, and it is enabling base SAS colors inside a macro definition. And third one is functions in SAS. Most of the SAS developers prefer macros rather than functions, and I would like to tell few people that we also have SAS functions. Most of us already know, I guess, and just to remind that we have got functions as well in SAS. Cool. Let's go to the first one, and this is to list the duplicate values in a data set and count off how many duplicates we have in this data set as well. Let's look at the student data set that I have here. Let me grab my pen. Cool. This is the students data set that I have here, and there are different students here, Abhishek, Anusha, Bharat, and all these things. And look at here, Abhishek is thrice here, and this one, Anusha, is twice here. And they are duplicate values. And so I need to list what are all the duplicates and how many are there so that I can actually go for some other analysis or do some other tasks on my own for my data sets or for my program or project or whatever. And to be specific, the data set that I wanted is the second table here, like how many duplicates are there for each and every person and what are all them and so on. Okay, let's go to the program now. Yeah, this is the simple PROC SQL that we have here, and I'll explain how it is going and how are we getting the results from this PROC SQL as well. Yep, I'm very bad at explaining this kind of PROC SQLs, but I'll try my best here. Okay, first of all, let me explain it in a SAS way so that how SAS treats the code, and I'll tell to explain in the same manner so that it will be easy here. And first of all, SAS checks for syntax, it is checking and it is fine. Now SAS is going to check for the PROC SQL here. Now, where it does go directly, it does go to the from statement here and it check for students table and it is available, and here it is. And after that, it is checking for inner join here and inner join, whenever we SAS come across inner join, in the next step, it will look for a table, but we haven't specified any table here, but a subquery. SAS in turn will create a table in the subquery called SQDup. And it will not be shown to us, but it will create on its own in its buffer space, and which is nothing but select name, gender, count star as duplicates from students table that we already have, and group it by name, gender, and having duplicates more than one. And the dataset SQDup, SAS, which in turn will create like this here, so that it can actually proceed joining with students table. It is looking complicated here, as we know SAS creates a dataset called SQDup on its own. Let's simplify it so that we can actually understand or explain much better way. Look here, the same thing, and I actually replaced all the subquery with SQDup here. That was, we are assuming that is being created by SAS when it runs that subquery. And now it is looking way simpler than before. It is just joining this table with this table. So we will get the table, something similar to this one. I hope I have explained it better, in a better way, I guess. And let me know if you guys have any questions, or else I'll move on to the second topic. I'm assuming no questions. Okay, let's move on to the second topic. And second topic is calling a macro within a data step and using the value from the macro call within the same data step again. And these are the data sets that I have at this moment. This is the first one. Fishes is a data set that I have. And a fisherman went to fishing and he has caught 100 goldfish on the 1st of March and 200 salmon fishes on the 1st of March. And I need to understand, or I need to know how many or which percentage of whole fishes that he has caught on 1st of March are goldfishes, and how much percentage is salmon fishes out of it. So for that, we actually need to know how many total fishes he has got on that particular day, so that I can actually divide one by the total, so that I can actually get percentage of goldfishes or salmon fishes or whatever the type of fish he has got on that particular day. Like something like, I need how many fishes he actually caught on 1st of March. How many he has got on 1st of March, so that I can divide one by another, so that I can actually get what percentage of goldfish or salmon fish he has actually caught on that particular day. Cool. And we can do this, or we can solve this kind of things in several ways, but I wanted to explain how to call a macro within a data step. So I have chosen this kind of thing for explanation purpose itself, not to say it is an effective method. Cool. Here I have got a macro definition here. And this macro definition is creating a macro variable called total fishes from the table that we have fishes. Select sum of count into total fishes from fishes table where the date equals to date. We will be passing the date from another data step here. Look, we have got macro. We normally call a macro by percentile, sum macro, and the date. But we are not calling it from outside a macro or outside a data step, but we are trying to call it within a data step this time. I would like to create a that fishes underscore x1. I have set we already have, and I want to call that macro using a DOS-UBL function, which is not actually intended to call a macro, but it is to remove the spaces in a multiple spaced string. But we are using this one to call a macro. RC return code equals to DOS-UBL of some macro, that is nothing but macro name here, And using double pipe symbol, we are concatenating it date variable that we are gonna passing, and we are closing the braces for the macro. So what it does is it's gonna call that macro from a data step. So whenever we call this macro, it's gonna be run and it's gonna create a variable, macro variable total fishes here. And we would like to get that total fishes macro value into the data step that we wanted to create here. So we're actually using simget function here so that we can actually get any kind of information in the macro variable to the data step or data set. That's what we created here. And after that, we have converted that into a number using input function. This is how I'll get, sorry. So once I do this, I'll get something similar to this one. I'll get total fishes here so that I can actually calculate percentage of fish, type of fishes caught on that particular day. Any questions in this one?
Alan here. I do have one question. Have you had
Yes.
any feedback on the performance? So so doable is a great function and it gives you a lot of flexibility, but I was aware that there was a performance impact. I mean, run it once, fine, but you only need to run it a few dozen times and it becomes noticeably, there is a performance implication to it. I wondered if, yeah.
Yes. In this question, I mean, when it comes to calibrating or calculating performance here, for example, if you have a snapshot data worth of millions of records over there, but you actually have a fishes or any kind of data set with 10 records or 20 records, you can't actually join these both tables because it's going to be huge query and it will take a lot of time. But if we are using something similar to this and just fetch the some variable from the big SQL query, that's way easier. That's what I have done in my original, I can say it's like original project here. And that's where I use this one and it was effective.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
Are you saying
I'll move.
For this one here?
Yes.
Are you saying that this would be more efficient with snapshot data?
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with two tables, one is far big enough and another one is far small enough, then this kind of techniques are more efficient. Did you get me, Brendan?
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? Or I'll go to the next one. Okay, I'll move on to the next topic. And this one is not actually a program or concept. It's a kind of small suggestion kind of thing, and enabling base SAS colors inside a macro definition here. In this macro, I'm actually writing a PROC summary on a given data set here. This is what the data set I have, and I have used a PROC summary here. But if you can observe here, within a macro definition, we don't have any colors here for proc or data or envy missing or class or quit. Now we normally have bolded colors, blue ones or something like that in our base SAS, but we can't actually see such kind of colors in macro definition. So, but what I was thinking is if we have that kind of color enabling feature, we can actually write our queries or we can actually write our programs without thinking about syntax errors or whatnot. So I thought of letting you all know the single statement that we include to enable SAS colors. This is the thing here. Everything is same except this piece of code here, and which is enabling the colors inside a macro definition like this. We're just writing macro underscore and we're ending that macro here. That's it. It's not going to affect any kind of performance or any kind of changes to anything. This is kind of good suggestion. people can use
So
it.
Abhishek, is that just purely, you know, when we're using a macro, like it just goes to one color, so that will just bring the colors back, so you know what's what.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks.
Yep, cool. No worries.
Nifty hack.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very nifty hack.
Sorry?
I said it's a nifty hack because
Okay,
we're hacking the
thanks.
editor into believing that the macro definition has ended when it hasn't. So
Yes.
And after
Okay.
that first macro, is there a space for the underscore? Is it space
Yes.
underscore?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the fourth one and last one, but not the least. This is functions in SAS using PROC FCMP. We normally create macros somewhere if we are using any kind of feature multiple times, and we call that macro from anywhere. But rather than that, we can actually create functions, and we can call those functions from anywhere as well. As any other programming languages like Python, R, Java, or C, C#, we have functions here as well, and they work in the same way, but we need to use PROC FCMP to create SAS functions here. Look at this PROC FCMP. We are using PROC FCMP, and out library is this. We are actually saving that in this location, and just like every other language, we are defining the function here. Function BMI, and the parameters here, weight and height. That's what we needed to pass whenever we call this function. And we are asking this function to return this value whenever this function is being called. And we are ending that subroutine. That's what the function call here. And we are using an option here called compile library. Is nothing but work.myfunction. That is this one when we have created, when we have given this one when we create this function. Just like the macro call from the data sets, we can actually call functions as well. Data BMI class, I would like to create this data set, and I'm setting SAS help.class data set, and I'm asking it to give only 10 observations from it. I don't want everything, and I wanted to keep name, weight, and height from it, so that I can actually pass this weight and height to the BMI function that is being created here. I can get BMI back. That's nothing but BMI equals to, we are calling this BMI function by passing height and weight that we have from SAS help.class function, table. And it's gonna return this value from the function, and we are just rounding it off to 0.01 so that we can see it in a much simpler way rather than 5, 6 additional decimals after a dot. This is how it's gonna give us the BMI from that function. It is much simpler function. I have given this example just to give an understanding of functions, and there are multiple ways, and we can do it in several ways using PROC FCMP. This is my fourth and final one, and let me know if you guys have any kind of questions.
Can you just take the slide back to that function screen?
Yep.
Thanks.
That's very cool. It's really
Thanks,
good.
man. Thanks, Rab.
So Abhi, this is Vishwas here. When
Hi,
you define
Vishwas.
functions
Mm-hmm.
and those variables, your data set should have the variable names which are same, right? If they are different.
Even if they are different, that's fine. Whatever you're gonna pass here, gonna be passed over to this place. So you don't need to worry about that. For example, if you have W here, and if you have H here, and you need to pass W and H here, so that it's gonna be returning the BMI value based on W and H.
Fantastic. Thanks, Abhi.
No worries.
Can I go back to the first two? I didn't get my questions in quickly enough. And while it was really interesting what you actually were showing,
This one?
well, both of them, the first one and this one, and it basically, I suppose, revolves around the use of SQL, which you know, people that know me in coding SAS, you know, I'm not a particular fan, except on occasions where it is absolutely the best thing that ever existed. I mean, see, it strikes me that there are ways of doing this stuff in Base SAS that are, you know, actually, frankly, in my humble opinion, you know, neater. And it's not that I don't like, you know, seeing what you've done, but you know, do you have a particular preference for SQL, or is there, you know, something bigger around why you've actually chosen these ways of actually arriving at these answers?
Coming back to your question, I'm not a big fan of SQL. I prefer data step and merges most of the times, but in this particular scenario, I'm giving this PROC SQL just because I have identified and tested myself, and it is most efficient and effective way of listing these duplicates. That's why I'm using this PROC SQL for the duplicates thing, and that's the only reason.
Yeah. Okay, so I've actually not been working for a couple of years, but I'm not, you know, 100% on SAS, but I would have thought using by processing and first and last dot would have given me an answer like this, you know, really, you know, quite effectively. However, I mean, it's been really interesting seeing what you've done, you know, and actually my other question would be, are the slides for this going to be available, you know, as a record? I've been making some notes, but I'd rather have your slides. So is it possible to get those?
I can answer that question. The slides have been provided, and they'll be in the flashcard that was linked from the LinkedIn post.
Right.
Cool. Thanks, Alan.
We have a. Are you finished, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a question from Georgios. Is there any benefit in using functions over macro-based derivations within data steps?
It's actually subject to, and we cannot say PROC FCMP using, creating functions using PROC FCMP is way better, or calling a macro within a data step is way better. We can't say that, but it is subject to each and every scenario. And I can say, if you are working, for example, if you talk about this calling a macro within a same data step, I can actually say it works better only if the one data set is way bigger and another data set is way smaller. And when you talk about functions, it will be efficient in both ways.
Okay, so it depends.
Yep, it depends. I
Okay.
can't really say.
Thanks for that. And then from Vishwas, we have in tip 4, can we define more than one function in the same definition? And also, can those defined functions be permanently stored?
Yes, we can define more than one function in a same PROC FCMP, and we can actually store them in permanent libraries as well. Here I'm saving it in work library, and rather than that, you can actually give any kind of permanent data set so that you can actually use them in future from anywhere. Does that answer my question?
Yes, fabulous.
Cool.
It does. Great. So we don't have any more questions in the chat. So I will say thank you very much and yep, you got your contact details here. I'll let you wrap up.
Thank you so much for joining to this presentation, guys. And I'm repeating, I'm a SAS developer admin in Brisbane, Australia. And here is my email ID and my LinkedIn address as well. And feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any kind of questions or any kind of suggestions, or if you need anything, please reach out to me. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
No worries.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thanks, Abhishek.
Thank you. No worries.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Abba.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alan, I'm